Speak to yourself this way and attract all you desire. Imagine if I told you that with just the right words, you could completely transform your day, or even your entire life. Sounds too simple, doesn't it? But let me share something. Science and Stoic philosophy say that this isn't just a dream or an empty promise. It all begins with a powerful practice that's accessible to all of us: self-affirmation. Think about it. How many times have you caught yourself saying things like, "I'm not good enough," or "This is impossible for me"? Believe it or not, these words don't just stay on the surface. They penetrate deep into our minds, creating a trail that shapes how we think, act, and most importantly, face the world. The good news is that with this same power, we can chart a totally different path. Stoic philosophy teaches us that although we can't control what happens around us, we have absolute control over how we respond to these situations. And that's precisely where the power of self-affirmation comes into play. When you allow yourself to say, "I can handle this," or "This challenge will make me stronger," you are, in practice, reprogramming your mind to view the world through a new lens, one that is steadier and more resilient. You're transforming obstacles into tools for learning, and each difficulty into an opportunity for growth. And it's not just a temporary change. The more we practice self-affirmation, the more we strengthen our confidence and our ability to face whatever comes our way. The brain responds to this practice by creating new connections and pathways, gradually becoming accustomed to responding positively and constructively. So here's our first action. Starting today, how about we begin to change the dialogue we have with ourselves? Let's choose words that remind us of our strength, our capacity, and that guide us toward a more fulfilling and mindful life with each step. And, like the Stoics, let's turn every thought into an opportunity for evolution and wisdom. Now that we understand how much our words can shape our destiny, you might be wondering, but is self-affirmation alone enough to face life's toughest challenges? That's a great question. The answer goes a little further. This is where the power of self-discipline comes in. Because, let's be honest, it's not always easy to keep up that positive dialogue, especially when we're in the middle of situations that test us to our limits. The good news: Stoic philosophy offers us a powerful tool for these moments: self-discipline. So, why is self-discipline so powerful? Let's think of it as a constant internal training that prepares us to act in the best way possible, even when everything around us seems out of control. In Stoicism, self-discipline isn't just about staying motivated or having a rigid stance. It goes far beyond that. It's about developing a mental strength capable of controlling our own thoughts and emotions and using them to our advantage. Imagine the difference between facing a problem with an agitated mind full of doubts and facing it with a calmness anchored in self-discipline. When we train our minds to stay focused and calm, we can observe situations with greater clarity, find solutions more effectively, and, most importantly, avoid being consumed by panic or frustration. It's like being in the eye of a hurricane. The chaos is all around, but at the center, there is a peace that allows us to see what needs to be done. In daily life, this Stoic practice of self-discipline begins with inner dialogue. What, after all, do you say to yourself when faced with a challenge? This is where many of us, often without realizing it, weaken our own potential. Perhaps you've caught yourself saying, "I can't handle this," or "This is too much for me." Adun. Words like these, in moments of difficulty, can destabilize us and undermine our ability to respond. But by applying self-discipline, we learn to transform these phrases into affirmations that reinforce our strength and help us build a more strategic outlook. Self-discipline is what allows us to challenge our own impulses. Let's say you're in a difficult situation at work or in your personal life and feel the urge to react impulsively. With self-discipline, you gain the ability to pause, breathe, and consciously choose how you want to respond. And this isn't about suppressing what you feel or ignoring emotions. On the contrary, it's about facing these emotions head-on and using them as an opportunity for growth. Stoic philosophy also teaches us that this mental self-discipline is, in fact, a gift we give to ourselves. Over time, it stops being a conscious effort and becomes part of our character. The more we practice, the more natural it becomes to maintain our balance and view challenges as an opportunity for personal development. To practice this discipline daily, start with small steps. Every time you encounter an uncomfortable situation, try taking a pause. Ask yourself, what would be the most helpful reaction for me right now? What lesson can I take from this? This might seem simple, but it's a powerful exercise in reprogramming the brain, where we start responding to the world in a more deliberate and less reactive way. Over time, these small acts of discipline accumulate, and before you know it, you'll have strengthened a stoic mindset within yourself. You'll start to see that you're able to keep composure and control, even in the most challenging situations. Stoic self-discipline helps us become authors of our own stories, rather than merely reacting to the events around us. Finally, remember that self-discipline isn't an isolated goal, but a continuous and valuable practice. It's the skill that allows us to face any storm with courage, clarity, and confidence in our ability to handle whatever comes our way. If we're starting to understand the power of words and thoughts, and we've discovered that self-discipline is key to shaping our responses to challenges, you might be asking yourself, but what actually happens in our brain with all of this? It's a fascinating question, and the answer comes straight from neuroscience. In fact, science has shown that our thought practices have the power to literally rewire our brains. Let's dive into how this transformation happens and understand how positive thoughts and affirmations we cultivate can reshape neural pathways and influence how we perceive and live our lives. Neuroscience has a fascinating concept called neuroplasticity, which refers to the brain's ability to reorganize itself and create new connections throughout our lives. In other words, what we think and repeat continuously becomes a pathway that gets more reinforced in our brains, impacting the way we react to almost everything around us. Imagine your brain as a forest filled with trails. Each thought you have is like a walk along one of these trails. The more you walk the same path, that is, the more you repeat a certain type of thought, the more visible and easier to follow that trail becomes. If you feed yourself negative thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," or "nothing works out for me," these pathways become so strong and predominant that they automatically start to influence how you see the world. But just as we've built these paths, we can also pave new ones. This is where positive affirmations come into play. When you replace a negative thought with a positive one, like, "I am capable," or "I'm learning from each situation," you are literally starting a new neural pathway. At first, it may feel strange or even forced because this trail is new and not yet well established. But the more you repeat these affirmations, the stronger this path becomes, until eventually it begins to replace the old negative route. Practicing positive thinking is like a workout for the brain. Every time you choose a positive affirmation, your neurons activate different synapses, creating new connections and strengthening the path to resilience and optimism. This process isn't just psychological, it's physical and measurable. To put it into practice, start with something simple. The next time you catch yourself thinking negatively, stop and reframe the thought. Repeat this exercise daily, and gradually you'll notice your mind beginning to respond more positively and constructively as a natural habit. This concept of neuroplasticity shows that we're not prisoners of our past thoughts. Instead, we're the architects of our own mental reality. And every positive thought we cultivate is a brick in that construction. If we've come to see how thoughts shape the brain and discovered that we have the power to build new neural pathways, a new question arises. How can we really transform our negative thought patterns into something constructive? We know that neuroplasticity is on our side, but what about those difficult moments when the urge to fall into negative spirals seems inevitable? This is where the Stoic practice of replacing negative thoughts with constructive perspectives comes into play. Let's look at how this redirection of thought not only gives us more emotional control, but also allows us to turn any situation into an opportunity for growth. Stoic philosophy teaches us to see beyond automatic reactions and intense feelings in difficult situations. When a negative thought arises, something like "I'm not good enough" or "this situation is unbearable," Stoicism encourages us to pause and reflect on how we can redirect this thought to something more constructive. Imagine you're facing a problem at work. Perhaps you received unexpected feedback that initially brings frustration or even anger. Stoic practice suggests that instead of giving in to these negative emotions, you ask yourself, "How can I use this to grow?" Or, "What lesson can I take from this situation?" This shift in perspective doesn't deny the discomfort of the moment, but instead uses it as fuel for personal development. This practice is like retraining the mind to see beyond the surface, always seeking a lesson or a new approach. When we apply this kind of redirection, we're basically teaching the brain to reinforce that neural pathway of resilience and overcoming. Over time, constructive responses become automatic, and we begin to see even the most complex challenges as stepping stones for growth. To put this into practice, try the following. When you notice a negative thought, take a deep breath and rephrase it. Instead of thinking, "I failed," try, "This is a chance to learn and try again with more wisdom." And in this simple exercise starts conditioning the mind to respond in a more positive and productive way. By turning obstacles into opportunities, we're not only managing stress and frustration, but also aligning ourselves with a Stoic mindset that views the world and its challenges as a field of continuous learning. Now that we've learned to redirect negative thoughts to a more constructive perspective, a natural next step arises. How can we mentally prepare ourselves to react the way we want, even before challenges appear? This is where a powerful Stoic technique comes in, emotional alignment through visualization. This practice helps us envision ideal emotional states and prepares us to act calmly and purposefully in any situation. Let's explore how this technique works and how it can strengthen our emotional control and connection to deeper values. At the heart of Stoic philosophy, visualization isn't just about imagining positive outcomes. It's about envisioning our best response in any situation. It's a practice that allows us to mentally rehearse balanced reactions grounded in virtues like patience, courage, and wisdom. Over time, these idealized responses become part of who we are, helping us to face life with greater serenity. It works like this. Imagine you have an important presentation and you start to feel nervous. Even before the moment arrives, you can use visualization to imagine yourself calm and confident. By visualizing yourself taking deep breaths and projecting clarity, you're training your brain to react this way in the actual moment. This practice helps the mind prepare and creates a constructive emotional response pattern. Neuroscience shows us that the brain doesn't easily distinguish between what we're actually experiencing and what we're vividly imagining. So, when we envision ourselves in a state of equilibrium, our brain perceives it as real and starts to respond accordingly. Over time, this repeated visualization becomes a natural trigger for balanced responses. The Stoic practice of visualization also includes visualizing adversities. The Stoics believed in mentally rehearsing challenging situations to be emotionally prepared when they arise. This isn't pessimism, it's an emotional alignment strategy that helps us find stability and clarity before moments of pressure arrive. This way, the mind is already trained to respond with wisdom instead of succumbing to stress or fear. Try practicing Stoic visualization in your day-to-day life. As you start the day, take a moment to imagine the situations you may face and visualize how you'd like to respond. Whether it's responding with patience to criticism or with courage in facing a difficult decision, this practice is a tool for developing responses rooted in values. When we apply Stoic visualization regularly, we create a solid emotional foundation that helps us act consistently and mindfully, regardless of the circumstances. This emotional alignment with our values and virtues is what gradually turns us into more resilient individuals, prepared to face any situation with calm and wisdom. Now that we've mastered visualization and aligned our emotions to respond with balance, a fundamental question arises: how can we maintain this calm and resilience when we face the stark reality of challenges? For the Stoics, this begins with the ability to see things exactly as they are, without the filters of pessimism or illusions. This is the next step in our journey, learning to recognize reality and adopting a mindset of facing it through acceptance, making each obstacle an opportunity for growth. For the Stoics, this principle is known as the obstacle is the way. In Stoicism, seeing reality without illusions means facing challenges directly without wasting time on complaints or self-sabotaging thoughts. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the Stoics encourage us to reframe the question into something more productive, like, "What can I learn from this?" or "How can I strengthen myself through this situation?" This clear recognition of reality isn't about being cold or indifferent. It's about viewing each situation as an opportunity to use our inner strength and wisdom. When we stop resisting reality and accept what's before us, we start seeing obstacles in a new light. They cease to be barriers and become steps that elevate us. A practical example of this is the principle of the obstacle is the way, popularized by the teachings of Marcus Aurelius. He believed that each challenge contains within it the seed of a virtue to be cultivated, whether it's patience, courage, or resilience. So when we're faced with a challenging situation, we can practice asking ourselves, how can this situation help me develop an important virtue? Imagine you're going through a period of financial difficulty. The Stoic view of this scenario wouldn't be to deny reality or focus solely on the negative. Instead, you could see this moment as an opportunity to develop resilience, creativity, and self-sufficiency, virtues that will enable you to face future challenges with greater calm and wisdom. This shift in perspective not only helps us maintain calm, but also transforms how we see and face the world. To incorporate this view into your daily life, try practicing reality recognition with a simple exercise. Whenever you're confronted with a problem, ask yourself what this situation is trying to teach you. By viewing the obstacle as an ally in your personal development, you reduce the emotional impact of the problem and develop the ability to find solutions with clarity. Accepting challenges and seeing them as part of the path is one of the most liberating Stoic practices. This mindset prepares us to live a life of greater purpose, where each difficulty, instead of bringing us down, strengthens us and brings us closer to our virtues and inner growth. So, we now understand how to recognize reality and turn obstacles into growth opportunities. But for these principles to truly become part of our lives, one crucial element arises: consistency. Without it, any new mindset or virtue is unlikely to become a lasting practice. This is the next pillar of our journey. Understanding the importance of consistency in forming virtuous habits and how it is the key to solidifying our personal growth. Let's explore how discipline and repetition build a strong foundation so that each of the Stoic principles we've discussed so far becomes a part of who we are. Imagine an athlete in training. No runner wins a gold medal after training just once. They need a consistent training routine which strengthens them day by day, even when the process is tiring or when progress seems slow. Similarly, practicing Stoic virtues, such as patience, courage, and resilience, requires repetition and persistence. It's not enough to simply decide that in a single moment of difficulty, we'll respond calmly and clearly. For that response to be genuine and spontaneous, it must be practiced and reinforced regularly. This is where consistency comes in. It's what transforms a single action into a solid habit. In the case of Stoicism, this means that every small act of self-control, every time we redirect a negative thought, every opportunity we find to learn from challenges are like training sessions that strengthen our character and bring us closer to our best selves. This continuous practice, done day after day, establishes deep roots that support our growth. Consistency is also essential because our brains are wired to reinforce what we practice regularly. Each time we respond to a situation with resilience and patience, we reinforce these neural pathways until that attitude becomes our natural way of reacting. Over time, virtues are no longer just intentions, they become part of our automatic behavior. To start developing this consistency, think about small daily rituals that can help. The Stoics, for example, practiced daily reflections, both in the morning and at night. They would start the day by visualizing how they wanted to act, and end the night reflecting on their actions and lessons learned. This routine was not just a habit, but an exercise in self-awareness that helped them keep their virtues at the center of all decisions. We can adapt this to our own daily lives. Dedicate a few minutes in the morning to setting an intention for the day, like being patient or practicing gratitude, and in the evening, reflect on situations where you succeeded or fell short of this intention. This regular exercise, even if simple, has a powerful effect on building virtuous habits. Remember, consistency is like the foundation of a house. It's what keeps everything standing, even when the winds and storms of life come along. Every small daily practice, each intentional act, strengthens the structure we're building within ourselves. And like an athlete training for excellence, we too can become masters of our virtues, ready to face whatever life brings with balance and wisdom. As we understand the importance of consistency in practicing virtues, it becomes clear that our thoughts and words play a crucial role in this process. After all, what we tell ourselves in the most difficult moments can determine whether we continue on the path of resilience or get sidetracked by adversity. This is where the concept of positive self-talk as a tool for emotional strength comes in. Let's explore how the simple act of carefully choosing the words we say to ourselves can transform our ability to face challenges, building a resilience that goes beyond circumstances. Positive self-talk goes far beyond superficial optimism or an attempt to think positive all the time. In fact, it's a practice of reaffirming our worth and our potential to overcome any difficulty. When we speak to ourselves in a constructive and encouraging way, we're sending a clear message to our brain. I'm capable of handling this. I can overcome. Imagine yourself in a challenging moment, like an unexpected setback that threatens to disrupt all your planning. Instead of letting thoughts like, I can't do this, or this is too much for me, take over, try reframing your internal language. Tell yourself something like, this is an opportunity to adapt and learn. By using positive self-talk, you're not denying the difficulty, but rather choosing an approach that reinforces your strength and your ability to find a way through. And according to neuroscience, this practice not only alleviates emotional stress, it literally activates areas in the brain associated with problem-solving and motivation. When we communicate with encouraging words, we stimulate the release of neurotransmitters like dopamine, which boost our sense of well-being and help us focus on solutions instead of problems. Thus, positive self-talk doesn't just change our mindset, it strengthens our physical and emotional resilience. Stoic philosophy teaches us that the words we use to describe a situation directly influence our experience of it. A challenge that may seem insurmountable when described negatively becomes more manageable when approached with constructive language. Instead of feeling discouraged with "this is impossible," thinking "this is a step for my growth" shifts our perspective and allows us to face the obstacle with a strengthened attitude. To incorporate positive self-talk into your day-to-day life, try starting a reflection journal where you write down the challenging moments you faced and the positive words you chose to meet them. This practice helps recondition your inner language, making it a natural tool for reinforcing your resilience. With each new challenge, remember that your words are the starting point for your empowerment. They build, brick by brick, the foundation of your resilience. And as we cultivate this kind of positive dialogue, we prepare ourselves not only to withstand challenges, but to use them as opportunities to grow even further. As we progress on our journey of emotional and mental strengthening, we realize that positive self-talk is a powerful step in cultivating resilience. But what comes next? The next step is the practice of gratitude and acceptance. Two essential elements in Stoicism that help us find peace in any circumstance. For the Stoics, gratitude and acceptance are not merely natural reactions to the good things in life, but active practices that shape our worldview. Let's explore how these principles enable us to appreciate the present and embrace limitations with serenity, finding a contentment that goes beyond external circumstances. The practice of Stoic gratitude begins with something simple yet profound, acknowledging the value of what we have without wasting time wishing things were different. Instead of focusing on what's missing or what could be, the Stoics encourage us to look around and give thanks, even for the smallest blessings. This perspective helps us live with a sense of completeness in the present, freeing us from the constant feeling of lack. For example, when we face difficulties, rather than lamenting what we cannot change, we can pause and be grateful for the opportunities we still have to learn and grow. Stoic gratitude isn't about ignoring problems. It's about recognizing the value of the lessons each moment offers. It's telling ourselves, even in difficult moments, there's something I can appreciate and use to strengthen myself. Alongside gratitude, the Stoics practice acceptance, which involves embracing the limitations of what we cannot control. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest figures, reminds us that we have control over our actions and reactions, but never over the world around us. Thus, by accepting that certain events are beyond our reach, we find the freedom to focus on what truly matters, our choices and responses to each situation. Stoic acceptance is also about avoiding resistance to the inevitable. Rather than struggling against things we can't change, we learn to receive these experiences with serenity, recognizing that they are part of life. Consider a difficult situation, such as an unexpected change of plans. By accepting that this event is out of your control, you save emotional and mental energy that can be redirected to something more constructive, finding the best way to handle the new reality. To practice gratitude and acceptance daily, try reflecting on what you can be grateful for each morning, and in the evening, review moments when you accepted a situation without resistance. This simple exercise helps transform gratitude and acceptance into deep-rooted habits that promote lasting peace of mind. Thus, by adopting gratitude and acceptance as regular practices, we aren't just facing life with more calm. We're creating a state of internal contentment that allows us to live in harmony with the world around us, just as it is. After exploring the power of gratitude and acceptance for inner peace, we arrive at a powerful tool that helps us envision our own growth: the use of empowering questions and the practice of future self-talk. These methods allow us to direct our thoughts intentionally and foster a proactive, positive attitude toward our goals. Let's understand how well-formulated questions and a dialogue with our future self can help us act with greater confidence and alignment with the virtues we want to cultivate. Empowering questions are questions that encourage us to think beyond the obvious, awakening new possibilities and solutions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" an empowering question leads us to investigate something more productive, such as, "What can I learn from this situation?" Or, "How can I use this challenge to strengthen my resilience?" This type of questioning shifts us from a victim mindset to that of a protagonist capable of shaping our own path. Imagine you're facing a major decision in your career. Empowering questions can help you evaluate your options with greater clarity and purpose. Ask yourself, is this decision in alignment with the values I want to cultivate? Or how does this choice bring me closer to the person I want to become? These questions broaden your perspective and encourage a deeper understanding of who you truly are and where you want to go. Alongside empowering questions, there's the concept of future self-talk, speaking with your future self. This practice involves envisioning the best version of yourself and guiding yourself from that perspective. Picture yourself 5 years from now, stronger, wiser, and more self-aware. Ask this future self how they would face the challenges you're dealing with today. What would they say to you about patience, courage, and determination? This practice of imagining our future self helps us make decisions aligned with what we truly want to become. This empowering self-talk and visualization practice also aligns with Stoic teachings, which encourage us to act as though we already possess the virtues we're striving to develop. By visualizing ourselves as more patient, stronger, or wiser, we begin to integrate these traits into our present life. Over time, these behaviors become second nature, bringing us closer to our ideal version. To start, set aside a few minutes each day to ask these empowering questions and connect with your future self. Choose an area where you want to grow and ask yourself, how would my future self handle this? Or, what can I do now to become the person I envision? This exercise provides powerful clarity and motivates us to align our actions with the values we want to cultivate. By incorporating empowering questions and future self-talk into our lives, we're creating a clear path for personal growth. Each question and each visualization brings us closer to the life we desire, guiding us purposefully to become the best version of ourselves. Each of these steps has brought us closer to a deeper understanding of Stoicism as a transformative practice capable of strengthening our character and bringing balance to our daily actions. But remember, Stoicism is not just a set of ideas, it's a constant practice, a way of life. As we've seen, every decision, every thought, and every small act of discipline and self-control brings us closer to a fuller, more virtuous life. And the beauty of this process is that it's continuous. Each day brings a new opportunity to become better than we were yesterday. So now that you've taken your first steps along this path, how about joining a community of people who share the same goal? Stoic practice becomes even richer when we walk it together, supporting and inspiring each other to grow and evolve. I invite you to be part of this collective journey where we can exchange experiences, learn, and motivate each other to live with more purpose. If you're ready to take the next step, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it with others who are also seeking growth and balance. Remember, the path to a virtuous life is ongoing. Every thought, every action, and every word matters. Thank you for being here today and for being part of this journey. Let's move forward, living with strength, wisdom, and above all, purpose. Until next time, stay steady on the path of Stoic philosophy.